Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Tech Can Save Us podcast brought to you by Literal Humans. As always, I'm your host, Paul David, founder and CEO of Literal Humans. And I'm joined today by Taran Lent, CTO of Illumia. Welcome to the pod.
Hi, Paul. Thanks so much for having me. Love to be here and can't wait for a conversation.
So today we're talking about architecting the future of campus commerce, and we're going to dig into what that campus word means. And by way of introduction, Illumia is a leader in enterprise-grade cloud software, born from powerful combination, and this is kind of a recent one, of Transact Campus and Seaboard, focused on revolutionizing the campus experience through innovative commerce and credentialing solutions. Taran is a seasoned entrepreneurial leader with a career defined by building and scaling breakthrough technology companies, from co-founding Cardsmith to leading massive digital transformation at Transact. Welcome to the pod.
Hey, thanks so much. I should have you be in charge of all my intros. That was great stuff.
Well, let's jump in. The first question we like to ask on Tech Can Save Us is for you to kind of just explain the landscape that you're working in for our audience. We talked about the word campus, and we'd love to hear how Illumia is kind of redefining what this term connected campus means in 2026. And if you can walk us through kind of the merger and how this integration of powerhouses has created this unified vision of campus technology.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect time for this conversation. This might be the most important inflection point in our company's history. I always tell everyone we're a 30, 40-year-old startup, and that's how it feels to work here at Illumia. But Illumia is a combination of two companies, Transact and Seaboard. We came together about 2 years ago, year and a half ago. We were acquired by Roper Technologies owned Seaboard, and they acquired Transact, and they're combining the two companies. And it's really kind of a merger of equals. Both companies really have a rich history serving the marketplace. And you asked the question about campuses, and so we use we think about the term campus broadly because we serve college and university campuses, healthcare campuses, corporate enterprise campuses, and senior living. And, I think just the breadth of the portfolio that the two companies brought together was the perfect time to rename the company and have a new brand. And we came up with Illumia, and we think it's a light, forward-looking, modern brand that we're going to have a lot of fun with because, we're going to kind of light the way forward and provide clarity. So we're pretty excited about it. It's a really exciting time to be at the company.
Yeah, it's a great name. Is there any more you could share about the process of rebranding, or because we've done that with a couple clients where they've merged and we've had to give them a different name and rebrand. What was that like?
So rebranding's interesting because everybody's an expert when it comes to rebranding and everybody has strong opinions. And look, whenever you have a new name, people have different reactions. I tell people a new name and a new brand is kind of like a home. How you furnish it and the memories you have there and what you do creates the the emotion over time. But the biggest thing we did is we partnered with our clients and our partners and our employees, and we got their feedback, and we kind of hired companies that specialize in this to help us think about it from every angle. What we uncovered as we talked to people is what our customers value, what our clients value is the history, the relationships, the collaboration, solving problems, the reliability of our solutions. And I think that's what they value, and we just wanted to make sure we had a name that was worthy of that going forward. Transact had a payments business. Seaboard had a big and growing healthcare business. So Transact Campus wasn't really a representative name of the full breadth of what we do. And we thought, Seaboard, there was opportunities to improve in that. But we just went through it, and we just, we shared ideas with our clients and partners and employees and got their feedback and kind of got it down. And then there's this trivial matter of just legal, like is the name available and can you trademark it, and is the domain that you want available. So all those things go into it. But we're really excited that we've kind of landed on Illumia. We had our annual client conference last month, and it was a phenomenal time to unveil the new brand. And one thing that's exciting is our colors. We actually looked at a color wheel. And, in our marketplace, ourselves historically and our partners were all kind of blue-green. And we're on the opposite side of the color wheel, which to me represents that we are differentiated and we're not like the others. And so all of that came together, and we're excited about it.
That's great. Well, I think you nailed it with the name, and yeah, I mean, rebranding, it can be so fun. It gives you a breath of fresh air for the business. So well done on that. Wanted to talk a bit more. You mentioned kind of, legacy, and I think that's really important. You all are involved in kind of enterprise grade software, cloud software for, these legacy heavy industries like higher education. Talk us through like what does that look like really modernizing the tech stack for these, legacy heavy industries like higher ed.
The first point I want to make is the thing that all of our clients have in common is their mission and purpose-driven institutions. And when you look at our company, there's a lot of people like myself. I've been at the company for over 20 years. And people that come to work at Illumia usually stay here for a long time because we just feel good that we're doing important work that matters. We're serving really important enterprises that take care of people at important, informative phases of their life, and we're providing technology to help them serve their end users and their communities better and to use technology in the right way and in a way that the end users appreciate and value. And it's not easy to do because these are complex environments. These are mission critical kind of operations and workflows. These are kind of always on systems. So when you talk about security at a college campus and getting students in and out of where they belong or helping them get access to the services that they're entitled to, whether it's buying food or getting books or activating a laundry or a washing machine or getting into the stadium on game day. These are just operations that are in motion all the time. And our systems have to operate at enterprise scale. They have to be always available. Everything we do is measured in milliseconds. We're tapping a watch to unlock a door, and people expect that to happen instantly. Students are ordering food in between classes, and they expect that to work perfectly and the food to be ready when they go to pick it up. In a hospital environment, we're making sure patients get the right food. And when you're in a hospital healing, food is medicine. And depending on your allergies and nutritions and what you're there for, having integrations with medical records so that we make sure patients get the right food. And if doctors update the medical records, that change goes into effect immediately. So just that gives you context of the environment that we operate in. And so the question is then what matters at that point? And the way that I talk about it with our clients is we do the hard things. We do the hard things so that you don't have to worry about it. And so there's a lot of things, like enterprise grade security and compliance, the infrastructure to make sure the systems are always available, that when we release new software and make changes, that we do that with kind of high accuracy and reliability that doesn't disrupt operations. We care a lot about accessibility at the company so that kind of all users can access our services and use them in ways that are convenient for them, even if they have disabilities. So all these things that are really table stakes, but they're hard and not. You almost need a company like ours that has the scale, the financial scale, and the operational scale to be able to invest in those hard things to do it really, really well. And so those are the things that we like to focus on. So we do the hard things, so that people can trust us with their most mission critical work.
I love the integration too with both like kind of the end user and also your customers, your clients, right? Like so, the university that's trying to make sure that food gets to its students, hot and well timed, and the hospital that's trying to treat food as medicine, for example. That empathy for kind of the end user, but also for your client and their job, their mission, I think is a bit rare, more rare than it should be, and really really powerful. So, would love to jump into your product, and talk more about that and like how you do it, because I think, as you said, like people kind of don't understand like what's behind these systems that they kind of take for granted, and I think that's a great sort of thing to lift up for our audience and show what's underneath there. So you've got this idea of software craft, and I want you to help our audience understand what does that look like when you're processing billions in tuition and payments, and you have this thing to raise the engineering standards with software craft. Help us understand how that focus on automation and accessibility has like changed the way that your team is building and rolling out products for your clients.
Yeah, I'll start with an analogy. So a world-class cabinet maker that's trying to make a beautiful cabinet, they're going to use the finest wood and they're going to take pride in the design. And there's a moment in time where the back of the cabinet, you could just put a piece of cheap plywood on it because nobody's going to see it. It's going to be against the wall, right? But a craftsman wouldn't sleep at night if they knew there's a piece of plywood on the back of the cabinet. They want the whole cabinet to be beautiful, right? And so they're gonna go that extra mile and make sure the back, even though it might not always be visible, is the same quality as the front. So when I talk about software craft, what's important for me, so I oversee, over almost 400 software engineering professionals, and it starts with the talent. If you are a company that cares about software craft and doing things the right way and doing things with quality and doing things that are sustainable over time, and you're using new technologies the right way, that's it's really important to attract the right type of talent you have at your company. Because if you don't have the right talent, you can have all the right intentions, but you may not be able to execute it. So software craft, what I found, attracts the right talent and it helps retain the top talent. The next part of software craft to me is, we really think about teams. We want our teams to have a mission they believe in. We want them to be empowered. We want them to understand they're solving a real problem for our clients and what success looks like. And then we try to give them all the tools and resources they need to be able to execute that mission as autonomously as possible. And so that sets them up for success. I talk a lot about, my job is to make sure I stack the odds in my team's favor. I want them to have the best possible chance to win. And then we set really high standards, right? We have a saying in our world that smooth is fast. So I think about velocity not just when you get something out the door. I think about velocity over the course of a decade. And so what are the things that make you go fast? Well, if you have really good quality and you have good quality automation and you're not putting escape defects out in the world, you're not wasting your time solving on bugs. We do a lot of automated load testing, because we want to know that our solutions are going to perform at scale and that they're going to support the loads that they experience during peak periods. So that doesn't get us. We want to be fast with how we iterate. And so we invest a lot in continuous deployment and automation around that so we can deploy anytime with confidence. Our next generation teams will deploy our software 200 times, 300 times a year. So that we can respond to whatever's happening and we can provide value quickly to our customers. We talked about accessibility. We care a lot about accessibility to make sure that our software works great for all users. And then we have observability. So we spend the extra time to put the telemetry into our products so that we can observe them kind of in a maniacal manner. And so we can see problems before they impact our customers. We can respond quickly. And if we do have an incident, we can diagnose quickly why it is and recover more quickly. And so those are sort of examples of like what I would call software craft. Another one is just design. We care a lot about design. Users are more demanding than they've ever been, and people are accessing services more and more from their mobile devices. And so how do you design something so that users can accomplish what they're trying to accomplish as quickly and easily as possible, and that it's an experience that leaves them delighted and saying, wow, that was really easy.
Yeah.
All those things are hard in practice, but they're things that we focus on because we think if you get them right, one, they increase our velocity over a long arc of time. And we think it's how we differentiate ourselves as an enterprise company versus, point solutions or smaller scale competitors.
Yeah. Want to talk about the mobile credential as kind of a massive milestone, being the first to kind of globally integrate with Apple, and this idea of the phone, right? Like it's a hot topic, we're seeing schools, ban them, and lots of different responses and things like that, or at least for younger kids. How do you see this sort of phone as everything tool and trend evolving for campus life over the next few years, and kind of connect it to, the infrastructure that you're building, with universities?
I guess my opening comment is first, we live in a society now where we all demand instant gratification and we want to be able to do things on our phones. And I have 15 and 18-year-old boys, and when they order Amazon, they're expected to be delivered today or tomorrow. And when they order their food from DoorDash, they're expecting it right away. And we just kind of live in this instant gratification on-demand society because technology enables it, right? And there's no doubt that students, prefer to, kind of go about their daily business using their phones whenever possible. So we understand that. And so that means that you have to care about how you use the real estate on a small screen. You got to design your applications to be responsive, and you got to use every pixel, to its highest and full potential on a screen. You can't waste, users' time. You can't put things below the fold. The mobile credential project is the most exciting project I've ever personally been involved in because we are the first company in the world to deliver digital identity for payments and security with Apple. Apple could have worked with anybody, and they picked us. And the reason they picked us, like, we had really good vision. When you have people that work at a company for a long time and you really understand the market, you can have vision that other people don't. And we really believed NFC technology was superior to, at the time, magnetic stripe. And so we actually seeded our client environments with technology that supported NFC credentials. Initially, it was just with cards, for tapping cards. But we really believed someday that the mobile phone providers would provide that same capability in their phones, and we were right about that. So when Apple approached us, we already had hundreds of clients that had NFC-ready infrastructure, and so we were able to convince Apple that we could, kind of grow this at scale very quickly, which is what Apple cares about. So we did this project, and The story I'll just tell you is every time we launch this at a major campus, Penn State, Florida, Duke, Alabama, we see the most extraordinary organic adoption rates. We'll see 10,000 students download our app and provision a credential in the first 24 hours. Students are not exactly known for reading emails and following instructions sent out to them by the administration. And so to get 10,000 students to do something on day one is just extraordinary, but it shows you the pent-up demand for it. We were so incredibly proud that we developed this innovation and brought it to market with the titans like Apple, Google, and Samsung. And we were quite proud of ourselves. The students were like, hey, what took you so long? We wanted this 5 years ago. So, that's kind of how it went. But we love the solution because it's absolutely frictionless. It doesn't require an app. It doesn't require Bluetooth. It works when the phone is in a low power state. You just kind of wave your watch in front of a reader and the door unlocks your phone. It's materially better than what some of you might have seen in hotels where you have to have the app and you have to have Bluetooth. And what we do here is it's literally frictionless because students are doing this dozens of times per day to get into buildings, to buy their food, to do their laundry. So we're thrilled that we brought this to market, and we're the clear leader in it for sure.
I'm glad you mentioned the frictionless, nature of it, and I'd be curious to dig in more to that end user experience and how at Illumia you're leveraging data analytics and kind of these low code integrations to kind of make those campus operations more or less invisible for the students.
So you said a really important word. That word of invisible is important to us. We on our mobile credential we got a quote from somebody that any sufficiently modern technology is indistinguishable from magic. I think that's an Arthur C. Clarke quote. And the thing that all of our clients have in common, whether you're talking about healthcare, hospital, a campus, they're all being asked to do more with less. And they're all under budget pressure. And when you look at the systems and the technology they have, a lot of times it's fragmented or disconnected. And so the question is, and we understand that we're not going to be everything to everybody. We can't solve. So how do we build technology that, one, our products integrate seamlessly with each other so we can create these what we call connected experiences, connected workflows. But how do we also exist in the ecosystem that we're going into? Because there's usually many other enterprise systems that our clients have that we need to work with, whether it's Epic for healthcare records, whether it's a Workday ERP system for a campus, whether it's a payroll system for. And so we design all of our software kind of, with an open architecture mindset. We do what's called API first. So anything that we build APIs, and we build all of our applications on top of those APIs. And then that positions us to share those APIs with our clients and their partners so they can also create workflows or innovations that we hadn't thought about ourselves on top of our platforms. But all of that kind of gets you to a place where you're deeply understanding what is the user trying to accomplish, and then how do we make that as easy as possible? How do we make it so they can navigate cross systems without even knowing that they're dealing with multiple systems so that it's just simple? And I just love the word that you use, invisible. The great technology should be invisible and work behind the scenes. And by the way, when we talk about AI, today we're thinking about AI through a chat window. But we had Zach Krass from OpenAI give our keynote speech at our conference, and he talked about where AI is really going is we're going to be unaware of it. It's going to be working and solving problems and doing things for us behind the scenes so that we don't have to be on a screen. We can instead be spending more time with people, with our family and our friends and our customers. And so there's kind of a humanity in technology. If you get it right, it should give you more time for the things that matter most.
Yeah, I have a sneaky optimism that eventually this stuff that we're doing, like staring at screens all day and chirping, typing on keyboards and moving, mice around is going to look barbaric, as it should, to your point. I love that Arthur C. Clarke.
It's a great vision. It's what we should be aiming for. No
yeah,
doubt.
Exactly. Like that's evolution. That's growth. So yeah, it's the modern churning butter and raising the barn, right? Cool. Let's jump into your growth strategy in the last 10 minutes here. You mentioned that you're kind of a 20-30-year-old startup, and there's this idea of how do you maintain that kind of startup innovation pace when you're a $1.7 billion organization? So you've just had this recent acquisition. Help us understand what that growth strategy looks like going forward, and what are some of the growth roadblocks that you're navigating as you're scaling such a large organization?
Yeah. So it's hard to believe. I don't think we think of ourselves that way at all. Some of the numbers are staggering. We definitely have scale. What I always say to people, we're a 1,000-person company. My kids go to high school here in Texas, and so high schools are very commonly 3,000 or 4,000 kids. So we're not even the junior class at a Texas high school. And I kind of encourage people, that's how we should be thinking about ourselves. We should all know each other. We should all know kind of what we're working on and how we can help each other. I think one of the ways that we deal with scalability, and I talked about it a bit earlier, was just, we try to empower teams, right? We definitely believe that people work really great in groups of 8 to 10 to 12. And so, we want people to be loyal to the team that they're on and serve the team, and then make sure the team has a mission that they understand that's solving a real problem for our clients. And if you do that, you can scale pretty easily because the teams are these little autonomous units are highly scalable, right? And as a leadership team, then our job is just to make sure that we're setting them up for success and we're giving them the training, the tools, and the trust and the autonomy to go pursue that. So I think that's kind of philosophically how we go about it as a company. The other thing is, we ourselves try to use technology the right ways. I tell people all the time, the job of a leader, there was never a great leader who said, hey, I'm just going to keep things the way they are. Like, that's not what leadership is. Leadership is about always finding a better way. And so, how can we be better? How can our products be better? And so we're, especially kind of at this inflection point where we have a once in a 2-decade, new emerging technology. How can we use that internally so that our people are maximized, that we kind of force multiply their capabilities? When we think about AI for how we use it ourselves and how we want to kind of have it show up for our customers, we talk about we want to identify and eliminate high toil, low joy work. Things that are not fulfilling, things that are not strategic, so that we can have people kind of use their intelligence and their capability on the things that are, the most valuable thing. And so, I think, and then the other thing is we just listen to our people, whether it's a long-time employee or somebody new. In fact, our CEO is leading an effort right now that's called Identify the Drag. And so we're surveying people and say, hey, what are the things we do that are not a good use of time? Meetings, processes that are too complex, things that get in your way. And the employees, the operating layer of any company is really intelligent and they know what's going on. And so if you just ask them, hey, how can we help you? And like, what's in your way? They'll tell you. And then you just got to prioritize it and kind of knock those things down one at a time. But I think a lot of those ideas are very entrepreneurial. Like, being an entrepreneur is all about being resourceful, creative, relentless, never taking no for an answer. There's always a way. And just having confidence that even if you don't know all the answers, if you take the next smartest step, and you do that over and over again, you eventually get to a really worthwhile destination.
Yeah, absolutely. I love how much it sort of comes back to this, it comes back to, like, regardless of the tech, it comes back to people, it comes back to, solving problems. Like, that's, the great joy of getting to interview folks like yourself. It just all kind of moves back to these really simple human principles of, are we helping each other solve problems? Are we being good to each other? Are we, making everyone's lives a bit easier? And that's really refreshing to see that. So
I think a really key word is empathy.
Yeah.
When we look at people working in a hospital with lower staff, and it's a patient that's healing, a family member concerned about a loved one, a nurse that's trying to provide the best care they can. Oh, we have this saying that sometimes the moments that are small are often the ones that are most important. And so the question is, how can we help those people be even more of a hero than they already are? How can we make their job a little bit easier? How help them provide an experience to their customer, whether it's a student or a patient or a family member? They're like, wow, that was a bright spot in my day.
Yeah.
And if we do that, that's what gets you out of bed in the morning. That's kind of what inspires and motivates your employees. And it kind of is what gives you the energy to kind of find the next problem that you want to solve and just kind of do that over and over again.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think I joke with people that I feel like I have one of the best jobs in the world because I get to talk to folks like yourself who actually are, helping to save the world, hence the name of this podcast, with amazing tech, and they're creating a reality that's better for humans with tech. And I get to talk to you all the time. So it's just fascinating and blows my mind. And it's a real privilege. Thank you for what you're doing. Let's jump into a little bit deeper into kind of growth strategy. You've got to focus on AI investment and specifically within campus ecosystems. I'd be curious, like, where do you see, kind of to your point earlier about AI becoming this invisible layer, where do you see AI providing the most immediate ROI for, educators, administrators, and students?
So the really simple way I would frame it, and it's back to that kind of high toil, low joy. We're looking for anything that can save an individual employee 5 to 10 hours a week of their time. Because we think this is a really good starting point. And so to do that, you have to really understand what the day-to-day life of your customers is. And so I'll just take our payments business as an example. we're processing, billions of payments, and for an individual campus, it could be tens of millions of dollars of payments, and it could be millions every day, and it could be transactions for tuition, it could be transactions through e-commerce sites, it could be commerce transactions. And there's all these payments that are going through our software, through a payment gateway, and ultimately the money needs to settle to a bank. And without AI, there's somebody today whose job it is to kind of do this end of day, end of week, end of month reconciliation to say, okay, did all these payments process and did they all show up in the bank account? And can I reconcile it all? And if there are any exceptions or anomalies, how do I chase those down and correct them, right? And AI loves data, and that is a data problem. And when we talked about disconnected systems earlier, if you're using different solutions from different point providers, it might be hard to tie these solutions together. When we provide the full technology stack, we can make sure there's continuity between these transactions through reference numbers and coding. And that sets us up where we can build an AI agent that will reconcile your transactions every day, give you a report and say, hey, you're good, you're green today. Or, hey, today we're yellow and here's these two specific things. I know exactly what happened. Press this button and I'll go ahead and enter the corrections into the ledger. And so something that may have taken a day, or multiple hours, suddenly we're doing it in minutes, or we're doing it automatically behind the scenes. And so, our customers are, AI people want it to be done responsibly, and they want it to be done with the right level of governance. And so, who knows where this is all going, but starting with a process that's really well understood today, that is a source of frustration or pain for our customers, and saying, let us show you how this technology can make this thing that's difficult easy, so that we can all learn together, we can kind of observe it, we can kind of get confidence in it, I think will go a long way to helping us get to the bigger and bigger things over time.
Definitely.
On the hospital side, if you think about it, like they're managing a lot of complex data, medical records, allergies, nutritional information, they're planning menus. We need to make sure people can only order food that's appropriate for their current situation. AI certainly has a role there to quality check and to help plan and to kind of, again, force multiply, like in this example, a nutritionist that's kind of the person that would be worried about that in a hospital setting.
Yeah. Want to pivot to, in our last few minutes here, just a personal question or two, just about your leadership journey. You've had this incredible journey, co-founder at Dartmouth to a CTO now, and you've been through a number of major acquisitions, Student Advantage, Blackboard, Transact. Would love to hear, I'm going to ask you about risk, and I want to ask you about soul, right? So, you had this experience of securing your first SBA loan, and I'm really curious about how that has shaped your approach to risk. And then I'm going to pack a lot into this question. I want to hear about the lessons that you've learned from those acquisitions in terms of kind of preserving the soul of a brand, of even a product, and your relationship with customers during those mergers and those acquisitions.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I love my career, and it was kind of an unpredictable one because, they say entrepreneurs, if you knew how hard it was going to be, you would never do it. And so you have to either be kind of naive or dumb or both to start. And I think that was probably the case for me when I was a young 20-year-old person starting out. And I would never have envisioned that little business I started at Dartmouth would have led to this career and to where I am now. But it's been a really fun journey. On the soul question, the thing for me is if you just, it's a very simple thing, but I think you just have to care. Right? So I just deeply care about the customers, my employees, the people I recruit and convince to come spend 8-10 hours a day here, and I care about our products. And I think if you genuinely really deeply care about those things, you're going to show up and do the best you can. And you're also going to have a certain amount of humility that you will, if you're getting it wrong, if you're listening to feedback and you're asking for help, people will actually help you, and they'll help you course correct and kind of zig and zag to get to where you need to be. And I think, to me, so the question is, it's easy to say, so how do you have that passion, right? How do you get that passion? I call it finding your conviction. When I sometimes speak at business schools and to entrepreneurial groups, everybody has ideas. Ideas are actually quite easy. It's easy to point out problems. It's easy to have ideas. What's actually hard is to find an idea that you believe in so much and that you want to solve, that you're willing to kind of give up 2 to 3 years of your life to go pursue it. And so you have to really believe that it's a real problem. You have to really believe that you have some insight that somebody else doesn't, where you think, I can solve it 10 times better than anybody else. Once you get that conviction and that passion, then you're unstoppable. And so to me, the exercise is, how do you find your conviction? And you
Yeah.
have to do real work. You have to go out in the real world and kind of put yourself into the wild and ask questions. And so, I guess there's a saying, you have to fall in love with the problem, don't fall in love with the solution.
Yeah, I love that. Like, I think people who get obsessed with like a question or like hey, this is a thing that's not working, and I'm going to be, sort of myopic in my pursuit of solving it. It's so cool to see across founders that we talk to. So, yeah, I really agree there. Well, we'll have to wrap it up there. I want to just thank you so much for taking the time. I love this episode because I think you've shown how you can kind of, still have the agility of a nimble, ass startup and apply it to massive scale at kind of the enterprise level, whether it's cloud software for universities and health systems. And it's cool to see, y'all sort of moving in that way. And even though you're a multi-billion-dollar organization. So I want to thank you for joining us, Taran. And where can our listeners find out more about the great work that's happening at Illumia?
Well, certainly check out our brand new website, illumiatech.com. We're quite proud of it. We appreciate the opportunity. Stepping back from busy kind of day to day and reflecting is super valuable and helpful to us too. And so I appreciate the interest in our company. And I want to tell you, we are just getting started and our best days are ahead. So keep a watch on us, and we'd be happy to come back for a future podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done a couple of follow-up episodes. So yeah, once you have a big initiative, give us a shout and we'll have you back on and talk about it. And yeah, just thank you so much for your time. I know you're a super busy person. You've got big fish to fry. So really appreciate your time. And for our audience, this has been another great episode of Tech Can't Save Us podcast, brought to you by Literal Humans. We've been joined today by Taran Lent, the CTO of Illumia, talking about architecting the future of campus commerce, also working in health systems and other ventures as well. Yeah, as always, give us a review, give us a 5-star rating so we can keep bringing amazing guests like Taran onto the show. Thanks, everybody. Take care.